Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
This is Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast, episode number 262. On today's episode, we're going to hear from John O'Brien. John hails from Madison, Wisconsin, and he's the owner of Grandpa Ray Outdoor. And it's more than just a company that sells seed and minerals. John is a teacher, and he's got a huge experience, resume, whatever you want to call it, in agronomics. And he knows cattle, he knows sheep, he knows everything about raising great animals. And then along the way, the whitetail world just blew up, and now he's taking all that knowledge and applying to whitetail deer. It's a great show. John is going to share a lot of what I call big buck nuggets. So stay tuned for an awesome show. Hey, listeners, don't forget to text 33444 Food Plot for your free Food Plot ebook. Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rondo. And it's hunting season, folks, and I'm heading to Madison, Wisconsin, and connecting with John O'Brien. Now, John is the owner of Grandpa Ray Outdoors. John, welcome to the show.
I appreciate being here as usual, Bruce.
Well, I'm just excited about your new book. In the warm-up, we were talking about you get a book coming out just in time for Christmas. So let's jump right into it. Let's talk about, one, the name of the book, where they're going to be able to get it, and why you wrote the book.
Yeah, the book is called From Soil to Success. I've been doing nutrition and agronomy and in the seed industry for over 25 years, and I'm all about education. I've always been focused on consulting. And so the book I wrote to give people a different look at nutrition. So I say, I'm a nutritionist first and foremost, but yet I wrote a book on soil. And we'll get into that a little bit. And the book I'm looking to, have released before Christmas. I do have dealers around the U.S., and I am looking to set up more dealers. So each dealer will have my book and also my website, which is www.grandparayoutdoors.com. In the cart there in the area where I have my food plot, seed, minerals, and other products, you will be able to purchase the book through there. And it might be a great Christmas gift for your family, husband, wife, kids, friends, and I wrote it just to stay with my theme, which is educating the public.
Now, talk about the chapters. How's it laid out?
Okay, so it's going to be more like a guidebook. And what we're going to do is we'll give people, a little bit of look into my background. We'll be looking at a lot of the different forages. So we will have a section, discussing, a lot of the different common and less common forages. We'll be starting with focusing on, what is healthy soil, how to create healthy soil, basic, concepts. We're not going to make this a super technical, guidebook where you need to be a rocket scientist to understand where I'm going with it. But we will, discuss the different basic nutrients, everything from the majors, the nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, to the overlooked sulfur, and then also the micronutrients. And that's where my focus has been, even not just with the dry products, but also the liquids and the foliars. So, we will be, covering, every nutrient, talking and showing some different pictures on soils, and also, how, pH affects, your plant growth and fertilizer uptake. And so it should be a really easy to follow book, one that for the beginner, it should help really educate them on the basic concepts, but then also for the people that have been doing food plots, and maybe you're a farmer, but there's like little tips in there on things that maybe people overlook, and it should be good for everybody.
Well, I appreciate that. And one thing, listeners,
just because you got a food plot out there, you want to maximize it. And I think John, as well as a number of other people in the business, they want to help you understand that. So wherever you buy your product, and I'm just going to throw this out, don't be buying your product from big box stores. Don't do it, because there's fillers, there's all different things. You think you're getting 10 pounds, John, what's the ratio? It's a 30% loss or more, in the seed component?
Yeah, commonly with most coated seeds, it's either 35%, but it can be as high as 50%. And interesting you bring that up, and I've actually posted that numerous times when I'm, doing social media posts and things like that, just trying to show people, hey, what are you getting, when you buy seed? And for example, I sell a lot of the NRCS mixes and work with a lot of people that are in the government programs. Any of those prices that I'm quoting, any of the products and formulations that people are sending me, it's all based on pure live seed. Wildlife industry is one of those industries where it's kind of the opposite. I mean, most companies are selling coated seed, but yet when you want to get into a government program, you're not going to be buying any seed that's coated to fulfill those requirements, because it won't hit the price point. Yeah, the coated seeds are cheaper per pound, but again, if it's 35% coating, you better be buying those products for 35% less to be to break even. So that's just one of my little pet peeves, and I do not sell coated seed. There might be a couple exceptions this upcoming year, just because there's a couple great forages I've tested that there's only one main supplier of them, and I might have to just suck it up and buy a little bit of coating on a really unique forage. But if at all possible, I do not want to be using coated seed.
Okay, listeners, I'm going to ask John just to explain. It's coated or coating, COATING. John, why are seeds coated?
The people that sell coated seed will never say this, of course, but I know growers. I've talked to growers, and they, of course, got to follow the line and be politically correct. But they grow seed. They ship seed to the coaters, the companies out west that are actually coating seed for their clients when it's requested of them. What has happened is common products like alfalfas and clovers, once people start getting it coated, of course, they're buying it. It only costs 5 cents a pound to coat seed. So if somebody's buying a ton of alfalfa and they're shipping it to, let's just say, Wisconsin from Montana, and if you're buying a ton of coated seed, which, of course, if it's got 35% coating, that's actually 700 pounds of coating, and you got 1,300 pounds of product. They're going to be getting it shipped in the door for about $2.30 a pound, versus if you're buying the regular pure live uncoated seed, it's going to be $3 a pound for the exact same variety. So basically, it's price point, it's profit. And some people will say, yeah, you do have some growth promoters in the coatings. Well, here's my solution. I use an organic growth promoter. I think I'm the only company that doesn't use coated seed that uses an organic growth promoter. So I'm getting everything that they could possibly offer and promote, but yet you're also getting what you pay for. So I want to use natural growth promoters, don't use coating, and price point is nothing. It does not come into play with what I'm offering. I prefer people to look at, find the best genetics and get what you pay for.
Now, in the coating, what's the purpose of coating seed? Why are tons and tons and tons of ag seed, coated?
Just like what I brought up, it's price point, because it's, so many people, if you see a bag and you go to, let's just say, a big box store, hardware store, wherever you buy seed, if you have a 50-pound bag of alfalfa and it says $200 a bag, how many people even really look? There's so many people don't even look at the tag or really understand what you're buying. I mean, you could have two bags of seed side by side. One can be $200 a bag that's uncoated. The other seed right next to it could be $180 a bag with 35% coating. What do you think, Bruce, the average person that isn't as educated when it comes to reading tags, which bag would they buy? if they're basically the same genetic, or similar genetic alfalfas.
The cheapest.
They're going to buy the $180 bag, right?
But they're getting less. They're getting less product. The one thing I wanted to bring up, one guy told me that they use it. Coating helps with the seed slide. If you're drilling seed, then it helps it slide. And then there is some promoters in that.
Yeah. I mean, there is some cases. Yeah, there is some seed that having the coating can also can help it flow a little bit when they're drilling seed. But I would venture to say, from the people I work with, 95% of the people are actually broadcasting their seed versus drilling it, and there's always other solutions. So there's exceptions to the rule. There is a few cases where coating would help, and the only case that I pretty much promote with having coating on seed would actually be sugar beets. And as you know, and maybe a lot of people have heard me talk, I'm not a big fan of sugar beets. And so coating, very few cases where it'd be you look at benefit versus cost. And and the other little things that people will bring up is it could also attract moisture to seed when you have less than ideal conditions. In my opinion, although I've had this conversation with numerous people that are less biased, 1 in 6 years you would probably see a benefit with coated seed if you put them side by side, same lot numbers, same germ count. But my solution that I recommend for people to do, use a natural growth promoter that I actually apply to all seed. That's a liquid that's sprayed on, and also guys could apply it to, before planting or even at planting, which also helps get roots. It helps get seed out of the ground quicker, and that's what I believe is a better solution than using coating. So again, time and a place for everything, but there's very few instances where I would actually recommend somebody to be using coated seed.
Based on what you just said, guys and gals, if you're broadcasting, coated seed just doesn't have any advantages except what John gave that one instance to. So be a smart person, because you don't realize the billions of dollars are into whitetail agronomy, food plots, and then cover crops, and everything that goes along with it. We represent billions of dollars to these industries. So let's become smart. And John's one of the guys that I know and trust, that he's an educator. He's been in the business a long time. Yes, there's other great people out there, and hear me on that. There's other great people that are selling seeds and doing a nice job at it. But some of the name brands in the industry, read the tag and make your own comparison. And I think you'll find that, wait a minute, I'm not getting what I thought I got. And you got to be smart. And that's all I'm going to say about that. John, let's look ahead and talk. Let's throw some hunting in here right now. What's your hunt plan for the fall? Yeah,
for me in the past, I've been so busy with my consulting career over the years, and in the last year and a half, really getting Grandpa Ray Outdoors more national. And I'm finally going to take some time to myself. I do love, living through my customers, seeing them when they're, shooting nice deer, seeing their great food plots. But for me now, I need some downtime, and I love being out in the outdoors. I love seeing, healthy deer, and I'm actually going to take some time to be in the stand, so, again, I have laid out a great plan for being out in the various stands that I'll be sitting in. And, I got I got the food sources. We got the water sources being ponds, temporary or permanent water tanks that I put out there and buried. We have funnels created. We have screenings created. And I have shown some of these pictures on my website, on social media, where you're overlooking my deer stand, which has some spiritual feel to it, because, again, the name of my business I named after my grandpa, called Grandpa Ray Outdoors, my Grandpa Ray. And so two of my great bow stands and gun stands are sitting right there near where he always hunted, where I saw it was with him when he shot his last deer. And the last two really nice bucks I shot died right near his gun stand. And So, so when I'm out there hunting, I'm not just out there to try to, get a chance at harvesting one of these, great deer that we, have on the farm. But, it just gives me a lot of memories, and I just can reflect and relax and just kind of get off the grid a little bit, with not just, being in total work mode. Great stress relief.
Yeah, it is. And, I've mentioned this before, with my sojourn chasing the bighorn sheep, it was just wonderful. And unfortunately, I wasn't off the grid because I was working every evening if I could keep my eyes open. But once I get to Wi-Fi, but just spending some time, and I call it God's cathedral, over 12,000 feet, and it's just an unbelievable adventure experience, and I feel closer to God when I'm in those places because there's no other clutter. It's just me, what I'm doing there, chasing the rams and just being in these places. And I think a lot of listeners can resonate with that because they get to special places in the woods, and you're hunting deer, but when the sun comes up and the owls are hooting or the turkeys are coming off the roost or whatever happens in your neck of the woods, it becomes real for me. It's reality of, I'm part of this whole plan, and, that's my 2 cents on that.
And like for me, the one thing I have brought up, and I had this conversation the other day with a new friend, and I actually hunt a little bit different hours that are traditional. I have a stand that is a great stand, and I only hunt it from 8:30 or so in the morning to about noon. And it's a great little transition area. It's an area where if I go in there when it's dark, I tend to bust deer. And yet, the deer are used to some human activity because it's on a farm. My parents who live out there do, walk and hike on occasion. And I can, walk by deer, and as long as I, kind of be natural about it, I can find my way into this great little honey hole. And I almost always will have decent deer walking by me at that next time frame when they typically are moving again, which is going to be in that 9:30 in the morning. So I do a lot of morning hunt. I rarely will walk in at dark in the morning just because on the farm it seems that we have a harder time getting to some stands. And then I also do some late afternoon hunting over these strategic areas where, especially as we move along into the season, I get the really good variety of forages in the food plots. We get the does and fawns out there, and of course, the bucks will tend to come out there closer to dark, but yet, we do have the best of all situations out there, and it's been a lot of work. But yet it's rewarding for me just to see a lot of healthy deer, no matter if you're talking, mature, bucks or just, the does and the fawns out there. I just feel a part of their nutrition, what I'm offering them, and I actually love just seeing a lot of healthy deer.
In the warm-up, you said you wanted to talk about looking ahead and some interesting forages. What's that all about?
Okay. So, I did bring up my book that's called From Soil to Success, and I do like to get through to people on things like your pH, how important it is, organic matter, the proper fertilizers, but then going back to unique forages and the right genetics. When people have been to my education plots or have watched videos or seen pictures on me talking about and showing people the differences in genetics, the right genetics for your area and some of these new improved genetics will actually resist disease. Some of these forages will also help resist insects, which means those plants will be healthier. Healthy plants tend to uptake nutrients. Healthy plants tend to be higher in protein, higher in sugar, higher in mineral. So my 2017 lineup, which I already had, and already have an elite lineup of really unique, perfectly blended forages, but we're also coming in with some other forages that very few people know about, very few people have seen, and very few people have planted. But yet at Grandpa Ray Outdoors, myself, the field staff, and people throughout the U.S. have been testing them for the last year or two. A couple in particular, fodder beets, plantain, which are two that are pretty overlooked. I'm going to be coming out with two more cold-tolerant annual clovers. We will also be, as I think I touched on before in one of the talks with you, Swedes. Very few people are using Swedes. They're used to turnips. Some people are aware of rutabaga. I'm really happy with the Swedes. So, we are coming out with forages in blends that are the next level, that are trying to maximize, no matter if you have a quarter acre, 10 acres. I come from the managed intensive grazing mindset where no matter how many square feet you have of forage that you're going to plant for your deer, maximize it. Let's get the most out of what we have.
How do we do that? I'm thinking of the farm, and I was thinking, the logging trails, we never get that done. And, next summer, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go up there actually May or June. I'm just going to have to go up there and get the job done because you and I had talked about that last year. It didn't get done, but I've got permission, to put stuff on the logging trails. So because you want to maximize what you have. And so we got agricultural land all over the place. It's over 600, 800 acres of farm, which is, I'm just trying to think, hayfields. It's probably 40% timber, all the rest is agriculture because they run both beef cattle and cows on different parts of the farm. So I'm just thinking, okay, how do I maximize, what I'm going to do or what we're going to do, on the farm, because we got mini plots and micro plots and, we didn't do the logging trails, but how do we maximize what I've got, whether it's a 20, a 40, a 60, a 180, 240, whatever. How do I maximize that? What kind of plan do I have to put out?
Yeah, great questions. And that's what I pretty much am trying to get across with my book. What I also am demonstrating with the various education plots and test plots. So what can you do? Have healthy soil by having the right pH, enough organic matter, having the right fertilizers out there. By doing those three things there, you're going to be typically increasing your growth by about 20%. Could be as much as 50%. Planting genetics, there's a big difference in genetics as far as, average pounds of dry matter per acre. Yes, some places like Georgia and different Mississippi and, have, done different trials with brassicas, but there's not a lot out there. That's what you're going to be seeing some videos on, even that we're going to be shooting this week, where I'll be doing scissors cut analysis, showing people that, okay, if a deer eats this forage, how much more nutrients are they getting out of it with every bite? So genetics makes a difference. Having a healthy soil makes a big difference. Having the right fertilizers. And then the next level, too, which I've been demonstrating, is using foliar plant foods. Or like this year in the upper Midwest, there's a lot of rain, and the guys that put their fertilizers down, part of that got washed away or leached away. Scout your crops. Think like a farmer. Farmers are always out there scouting your crops, and are you seeing insect pressure? Are you seeing plant disease pressure? Are you seeing nutrient deficiencies? And if you are, and you're not sure what to do, get a hold of me. I will give you recommendations on, hey, should we use foliars? Should we come back in with another 2 bags, 100 pounds of a triple 18 dry fertilizer? Should we be spraying for insects? Should we be using a fungicide? Very few people do that in the wildlife industry. Most progressive crop farmers do. So a lot of the tips I'm doing when I'm writing a book or shooting videos or blogging are to get more people to think like a progressive farmer. All of that makes a big difference. So many people could be leaving 20 to 50% of their nutrients, potential nutrients that you could be providing to a deer on the table by not doing these little things that do not cost that much money.
So if I got 40 acres, I'm going to put in microplots. I got a path going into my trail. I mean, my stand or my stands. So unfortunately, we're creatures of habit. So over the years, the deer know where the stands are because they know where I walk in, walk out. And that's one technique, folks. If you're doing that, if you're taking the same path to the same stand with the same wind, change it up, because the deer, as soon as you close the door or put on your headlamp, which I don't recommend, but you got to close the door, but I don't recommend putting it on your headlamp. But, you got to change it up. And what I've started to do in some of the stands is we got, north, south, east, west entry points. So you change it up and you make it different, and you try to confuse the deer. Your thoughts on that, John?
Yeah, and that's one thing too, where some people, like you said, they just do the same thing. There can be a time and a place, as I mentioned, for doing that, but yet wind direction is really important, and not going in the same times, and scent control and cover scents. Like, for example, a little tip that I'll give here is one of the shows I sponsor is called Everyday Hunter, and we came out with a cover scent that is a formulation that I've used for many years, all natural, organic blend. It's actually natural to deer. And so when people have used that, or if it were legal, if you're using a deer mineral my ultimate deer mineral, it's got those same smells, flavors, attractant were legal, those deer do kind of get used to that. And so, that can also help the cause. But then also, when you walk in, having things that are natural. And if you, are in, that stand, using cover scents. But what I've also seen, because I get on a lot of properties, people have me go out there and look, and I've looked at stands that have been there a long time, and I've convinced people to just slightly move them, even if it's only 10, 20 yards, not getting them. I mean, think like a deer when you're walking down that logging road, and think about if you're a deer and you look up, I mean, are you in a stand that's too close to that trail? Are you right on the trail? And I strongly recommend, like you said, is move these stands, periodically. It might be, only every 2-3 years, but do not leave them in the same spot. And also, have someone else scout your stands for you. What I mean by that is, you think you have these stands in a great spot, but have a buddy, have another expert, have somebody come down in these areas after season and get a take from them on, hey, where would you put a stand? Because I think it's just like, any good marketing company, scout yourself, get another opinion. As a hunter, have another hunter scout your hunting plan. I think that's very overlooked in the industry.
Yeah, I love what you said, your hunt plan. And folks, if you don't have a hunt plan, I don't care if you've had the land for 50 years. I'm going, back to Wisconsin, and we're celebrating 50 years of hunting on the same farm. No, I didn't hunt all 50 years, obviously, but the family that owns it sure as heck has. And it's amazing how we don't change it up enough. I think of the concussion stand, that I just love the concussion stand. Why? Because when we put it up, somebody got a concussion, so we call it a concussion stand. But that stand takes bucks year in, year out. It doesn't take mature bucks, though. And I've noticed that year after year, and I've seen some really nice 8 and 10 point bucks that just, 2.5, 3.5 years old, but they're not 4.5 and 5.5. And that's my hunt plan now. I'm 70 years old, and, if somebody needs a deer, I'll go out and shoot a doe. If one of the neighbors needs some food or whatever, we'll do that. And we do shoot does and give it to the farmer, give it to Eddie, and he's got a lot of summer sausage and jerky. But I digress here. But over the years, you get in these habits, and you need to have somebody scout your stand and think like a deer. When the person who's scouting it, have them think like a deer, and they're going to be coming 45 to the wind and coming through. And I've seen and heard from my guests that by doing exactly what John just said, moving your stand 10 to 20 yards, we're not talking about getting out of the area because obviously the deer go through there and you want to be there. But if you just change it up a little bit, the deer goes, there's something different because they do notice where your stand is. And all of a sudden they, okay, he's gone. And after a few times, if they don't see your stand, don't hear you in your stand, you're going to have an opportunity that you might not have got. That's my 2 cents worth.
Well, and then one other little thing I'll just chime in on is, and from observation to experience, I killed a really decent buck a couple of years ago because of creating, a transition area and a scrape line. And so, so many people, if you observe how the does and the fawns are moving, and this is especially during gun season, those smart old bucks typically do not just run out of that woods chasing after, the does, or, when they see the does out in the plots. I mean, they're going to stop and look, watch, and take some time. And what I did a couple of years ago with that in mind is I moved more of the food sources a little bit off the edges. I love having the clovers and the scrape lines along the side. But what I actually did is we had a little strip there. It was actually soybeans that was left. The rest of the field was harvested, but there's a little area there that was left. That smart old buck, what he did then is he staged. But instead of just standing right inside the woods or on the edge of the woods, he felt a little more comfortable to walk out about 10 yards, 15 yards from the edge of the woods because he felt safe yet, because there's some beans that weren't real tall, but they were left there. And that's how I got him. So that's just something people might want to, think about too, is beyond food plots and beyond where your stand is, don't think like a young buck, think like an old mature buck, and how he acts, and what is a trick that you could do to get him to take that extra couple steps just a little bit earlier. And both of the deer I've shot out of the Grandpa Ray stands, the last 2 bucks, were right around 4:10 in the afternoon. And both of them, we did do those little tricks, just made them feel a little safer. They didn't come walking way out in the middle of the field or out in the food plots, but they came out far enough that I was able to have success.
Now, I've heard of some guys leaving some Egyptian, and you got to help me out with the crop, but it grows real tall, and so it definitely makes the deer feel secure. And they actually made lines through small openings. I'm not talking about 100-acre, not food plots, but regular agricultural, land. But they actually made some swaths, and with the Egyptian, and I think plantain grows high too, doesn't it?
Not really, but yeah, the okay. Egyptian wheat. Egyptian wheat is kind of a term that became accepted as the popular form of screening. And this year in particular, there's a lot of people that thought they're using Egyptian wheat, but there weren't, because there really wasn't much to be had out there. So some products were sold as Egyptian wheat that aren't. But that being said, there is different options. Any sorghum that will stand tall and not lodge is good. So, for example, our mutual friend Brad Jones with Scrape Line Hunters, he's one of these guys that really taught me a lot. And I sell a screening mix I call Fortress, which also has some shorter WGF grain sorghum millet than with the Egyptian wheat and the tall sorghum. So it actually gives you different tiers of height, which helps it stand. Plus, it also can give you some cover. Point is, deer, you could just have a 10, 15 foot wide strip of your screening, Egyptian wheat, whatever product you're using, to help get you into the stands, to help give the deer, to help create a funnel. And so I like having a strip and then either not planting a little area or going out there with a lawn roller or a weed whacker and then just create like a little opening closer to your gun stand or deer stand. And of course, those deer are going to use that then. And it will get, even if it only gets you another 5-10 yards closer, to your stand, trying to help dial those deer in, making them go where you want them to go. Very expensive, very important. And I'll post again here on my website how I got what I believe is the perfect fruit plot funnel screening scenario. And I owe a lot to Brad, because he's one of these guys that's been doing this for years, helped a lot of people. Really great with helping direct deer where you want them to go.
Do you have another 20 minutes or so? Because we can do it. We can do a 2-part show.
Sure. Yeah, I got some time if you want to, continue this.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is Bruce Hutchin, your host at Whitetail Rendezvous, and John O'Brien from Grandpa Ray, and we just finished part 1, and we're going to run a part 2 here, and we're gonna continue talking about making the deer go where you want them to go, screening, because there's so many techniques. It's a lot of information out there, and you guys know it, you gals know it, but by sharing this on the show, you're going to get educated, and that's one thing that John's, he's a whiz bang at. And so that's the end of part 1, and we're going to roll on part 2.
Make sure you tune in to part 2 of John O'Brien, Grandpa Ray Outdoors. He's going to be talking about creating funnels and creating pinch points and creating cover so you can get to your blind or your tree stand without being seen. How does he do it? He does it with something called Egyptian wheat. He does it with a lot of tall growing forage type products that he knows works. And he's got a great friend in Wisconsin that's helped him figure out how to do this and how to make the right crops for the right situation to have deer actually move towards your stand. Brad Jones is his friend that's helped him with this. So stay tuned, and it's going to be a great show.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.